So here I am. So and I always wonder how it is like when you do perform your own stuff, because when you do have an audience, you have very short period of time for them to say, okay, do we know this one? What's she singing? Is that Whitney? Is that Mary? And you're singing your own stuff. And unless you have a very distinct voice, or you've got a really good band to go with, it can go either way. When you were performing, were you using a backing track, or did you get your piano? How were you delivering, and how and what kind of, were you up tempo, or was it slow? What was it?
Yeah, actually, I have performed with just me and my piano. I've performed with a band. I've performed with backtracks. I think my favorite is performing with a live band. That's my favorite way to perform. But I've done all of it, really. So yeah, I've done all of it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think my look and the tone of my voice is so interesting to people. I think that's just what gets them involved in the performance if they don't know me already.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like, wow, what is that? You know, and my music is very interesting. It has those little choices that attracts people. So I think those are the things that kind of kept the performance on a good. I never got booed or anything like that. I would.
Now you mentioned your looks, and I guess we also have to go back to your name, and you mentioned your grandmom teaching African dance, and I guess that's a very, unless you well, everyone's from Africa, but unless they were second generation African, why are you? What's your heritage?
So I think that my family, we are mixed with pretty much everything. Yeah, we pretty much got everything. But I came up, my dad's side of the family was Muslim at first. So he changed, my grandfather like changed our last names and everything like that. I grew up like not eating pork, and then my mom she went through a couple of things. I think she went through Buddhism, and then she did Christianity. I think she even did, I think she did something else too, if I'm not mistaken. But I've been exposed to a lot of different religions and a lot of different cultures. So I feel like I represent everybody. Like we literally have every single thing somewhere on the line. So yeah, so that was a big part of me growing up and experiencing just different cultures, multicultural experience.
What about your name? Was this Nefertiti? Is that the name that your parents gave you and you were using it as a kid in high school and college, or is it? It is.
Yeah. My dad named me. I actually think I named myself. Okay. I think my dad like, hey, my name is. And it was hard for me in school because the kids would tease me, and I went through the whole, I want to change my name, because every time the teacher says my name, the kids laugh and it's a whole thing. And my dad said, you have to wait till you grow up and you understand your name. And then if you still want to change it, then we can change it. But he was like, I want you to understand who you are first. And I didn't want to hear that at the time. I was frustrated. I wanted to be like Jasmine or something, like like the normal names that I heard every around me. But I'm glad that he didn't change it. I love my name. It embodies so many things for me, but especially me spiritually, because I definitely walk in the energy of a queen. So, and Nefertiti was the most powerful queen. as well. She was considered a pharaoh.
Yeah.
How powerful she was. And then what she did, you know, Nefertiti and Akhenaten changed religion in Egypt. Everybody back in Egypt in those times was worshiping different gods. So they had, you know, the gods of the waters, and they had the gods of the sky, and they had the gods of the crops, and the gods of the animals. And I think Nefertiti and Akhenaten came and said, listen, how can we bring everybody together to where, you know, because religion, it brings a lot of conflict. Yeah. Oh, well, my God is better than yours, and I'm right and you're wrong, and this and that and third. And I think they were kind of thinking, like, how can we unify this all? What's one thing that we can use? And they came up with the sun. And so they began, because the sun touches everything and everybody equally. So, and the sun gives everything vitality. So I think them coming up with that was brilliant and ingenious. And I think that I follow that way with, as far as the music industry, you know, because I want to bring evolution to the music industry. And I've said this since I was maybe 15, like learning how the game goes, learning how the contracts go, learning how the record labels go, learning how creators get cut out of the finances a lot of times. And I always said to myself, and I wrote and I would study and I would be like, I think that this can evolve in a good way. And I think that I'll be a part of the evolution, just like Nefertiti was a part of the religious evolution in Egypt. So
you had that back when you were around 15, you were thinking that far ahead and stuff.
Oh yeah, I was a bizarre kid.
Well, I mean, I'm okay. So have you spoken to, so did you ever go back and have a conversation with Dad about why did you give me the name, just after you sort of reflected on Queen Nefertiti and stuff? Did you ever have that sort of?
Well, my dad is an interesting man. He's a very powerful man, and he wanted to make sure that I knew who I was. So he wanted to make sure that I had a name or I had a title that rose me to the occasion of life. And so he was looking through some books and he found Nefertiti, and it means the beautiful one has come. Wow. That's the meaning of the name. And so my middle name, Avani, it means earth. So my whole name is a sentence. The beautiful one has come to earth. And so that's the title that he decided to give me.
Yeah. But have you gone back and said, well, God, you know, I've reflected on that? I mean, because I'm, you know, my heritage is Nigerian, and most of our names are very much named after, you know, the son of your grandfather, or you walk in God's power. So our names are really given in that sense. So you don't just get called Peter, you know, that'll be a middle name, but you get a traditional name that has a meaning. So it's very common for our Africans to give your kids names and meanings. But I would also would have thought and hope that actually it would have come to pass, just as your dad sort of looked and gave that. And did you, as I said, when did you realize that, you know, actually I've got a powerful name, and stop running away from it? When did that crossroad come?
I think I took African history in the 10th grade is when, and I would get, you know, some teachers would say, you know, you have a powerful name, you know, just over the years. And then I took that course, and that really dove me into, let me find out who Nefertiti was, the history, and that began that journey for me. And so I'll say 10th grade was when I was like, oh, okay. Because it worked into my purpose, you know, it worked into who I am and what I'm here to do, and so many different things.
And at that time, if people were making fun, how did you respond afterwards, after you sort of have an understanding?
Actually, when we were in the 10th grade, everybody was kind of grown up at that time. So even if, you know what I mean, even if they didn't know what the name meant, I think it was just kind of like, oh, that's different. And, you know, we had maturity then. And then, you know, there was a phase. Do you remember when Michael Jackson came out with Remember the Time?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because that video was actually released on my birthday.
Wow.
And I don't know if you recall, in the video, Queen Nefertiti.
Is that what man played, Queen Nefertiti? Okay.
Queen Nefertiti, and Michael Jackson was, you know, trying to get the approval and the love of the queen.
Yeah.
And so, you know, the Nefertiti chains, they're starting to come back now. Thing in the 90s, and now it's coming back. People, you know, Tupac has a tattoo. I think Rihanna has a Nefertiti tattoo.
Wow.
I'm see all of this different like Nefertiti stuff, and it's almost a calling to me spiritually. Like, you know, the world is, I'm just like this, so I'm just gonna be myself.
Yeah.
I feel like the world, you know, is ready for, because I know that I'm an experience. You know, when I come forth and when I speak my mind and when I create music, you know, it is going to move the world forward. So I think that it's kind of like a calling, like, okay, we're ready. Come on.
Yeah.
It's your time now.
Yeah, no, but it's and you hop back to that sense of visualization and that sense of purpose. You know, without purpose, people perish. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have a sense, if your goals aren't bigger than you can manage, then it's quite easy to attain them. If your goal was just to finish high school, then it's like, what's next? If you think, I want to get a PhD and go to the moon, that's a lot. So it keeps you on your toes to keep working towards that. So it's I mean, we'll get to the whole music industry stuff, but so, you know, you work with your husband, and I guess after a while things changed from him just being a teacher to things changing.
Yeah.
Did you then start thinking, okay, around what year was this that you know you quit college and you were like doing your working, learning?
I met my husband in 2011. I met my husband in 2011. So at that time, I was just kind of like, okay, now that we're together and now that we're recording music and everything, I finally had a product. Okay. So once I had the product, that's when I could start emailing people and reaching out to people, and he could email people and reach out to people and say, hey, we got this, check it out, what do you think? We're, you know, and so that was the start of me walking myself into the industry.
Okay. Okay. So how did that, so this is our part now. Okay. How did you start taking your product? What was happening?
So basically I began to release my music. So I released maybe like 1 or 2 songs. There were different platforms at the time, like SoundCloud and Reverb Nation, and I would look and the song would go #1.
Wow.
Like on this site, and I'm like, hey, I think we're good. Like, I think we're kind of good. So from there, I began to, you know, involve different people, like involve different producers, work with different producers outside of myself and my husband. And I began to get like involved with like award shows. Like people would do like certain award shows around the city, and I would win awards. And so I started to like, when I was working with other producers, that's when I started to get reach further and higher and higher and higher.
In what way?
Because they would be already accomplished in the industry. So everybody was older than me. Like everybody else was more accomplished. They were well into their career more than me, which was very helpful because they could just basically like lift me into what was going on. So I would reach out to them and I would send them some music and they'd be like, yo, this is amazing. And that's how I got involved with Missy Elliot. That was like my first celebrity encounter.
Okay, so 2011, you've seen your husband. What year was this that you sort of met up with Missy?
That was 2015. So 2015, I actually have a interesting story about this. Music Static Major is another person and he actually wrote with Aaliyah.
Yeah, from Player.
So once I began to make these contacts more and more, it let me know even further, like, wow, this is really what I'm here to do. And it's bigger than just making music and being famous. You know, it's about getting people through tough times.